Greeting all. For a fact, inner and outer communication are vital means which serve our main requirements, owing to a variety of interactive functions. So from this perspective, I will address the sentence forms such as advice, recommendation, and instruction. So we use these three functions in order to what? In order to fulfill our daily means or daily needs, sorry. For example, if you want to have an experience from someone who is knowledgeable, so you need what? You need an advice from him. Or if you want to help someone else, you can say recommendation. You can give a recommendation. Instruction is used for something that's like directions, or like when you want to inform about the rules, especially if you are a headmaster or CEO of a company or whatever. And also can be used in order to show what? Show the policy structure. Every company has policies. This is the meaning of instruction. Instructions is related to the imperative form. Without getting longer, I will start with the format of advice and how you can teach it to your students. So we start with advice, giving advice. So, in giving advice, we have two options. We use a modal auxiliary or the semi-modal. So, the modal auxiliary is should. We use should. So, should is a modal auxiliary. Whereas the other one, which is semi-modal, is ought to. So both of these, okay, have a mutual function. So you can say should or ought to. It is the same. But the common way where people use or give advice, they usually use the modal auxiliary should. So they use should. Ought to is a semi-modal. Is a semi-modal. Good. So I'm going to provide you with an example so that in order to have further clarification. Example. So we start with the subject, obviously, very easy. And you say you or he or she, as you like. You should do what? You should behave properly. Like I said, here you can switch. I mean the function of this one or this one. It is the same. So you can say you ought to behave properly, or you should behave properly. This kind of sentence is called affirmative. This one is an affirmative sentence. An affirmative sentence. All right. In other words, positive sentence. Now, if you want to change it into negative, just say should not, and continue with the rest of the sentence. And as for ought to, here is not the same. You say ought not to. Ought not to. So not should be at the middle between ought and to. Ought not to. Not ought to not. No. Do not say like this. So ought not to behave properly. Okay? This is the giving advice. As for interrogative form, how can we ask a question using should or ought to? Simply, it is like the function or the format of will. We start with will, and also here we start with should. Should I behave properly or ought to behave properly? Understood? So ought to be how you can say it, fantastic, or ought to be a good citizen, etc. So we start with a model auxiliary. Another remark for ought to is still a model, right? But you cannot add another model with it in order to fulfill the whole sentence. This is what I'm addressing for. So we start with ought to or should when having what? An interrogative form. So in an interrogative form, we start with ought to or should plus subject. Okay? Should I, understood? This is in interrogative form. Interrogative form is a question mark sentence. When you ask a question, very easy. So we finish with the first step. Now we move to giving a recommendation. All right? Now, giving a recommendation. When you give a recommendation, is very easy. Recommendation is the meaning of this type of sentence or type of function is when you suggest. Simply means suggestion. Recommendation is the synonym of suggestion. When you suggest something, but it doesn't mean that it is 100% true. It's just a suggestion based on my own experience, on my own point of view. This is the exact definition. Good. So in a recommendation, very easy. You start with the verb. Recommendation is a noun. So we start with the subject plus recommend. Recommend. I recommend, you recommend, etc. So very easy. This is just a recommendation. Okay, or I suggest, or I recommend. Good. So we say I recommend. Alright, so here I will explain the two rules that you're going to do. You have two options. As I said, for should and ought to, when giving advice, here also we have two options. So I recommend to, so you should add the infinitive, this is an infinitive, to practice, this is an infinitive verb, infinitive, or you can say practicing. So verb plus ing, verb plus ing. Good. So, and then you continue with the rest of the sentence to practice, how we can say it, writing a report, or practicing, how you can say it, practicing sport, or practicing I forgot the example. So to practice a written form, okay, writing a coherence form, or practicing a coherence paragraph. Very good. So here, just a recommendation, we use to practice and practicing. So you can say these two options. You can use them both. Or you can say, for example, another example, I recommend to be a sustainable learner that provide a formal sentences. Or you can say, I recommend having an in-depth knowledge about your daily learning situation. This is my own example. So we have practice and practicing. We have infinitive and we have a verb plus ing. This is what you're going to do. And then you continue with the rest of the sentence as the previous one. Now we move to the last one. For this is an affirmative. In order to make it negative, I recommend not. I recommend not. I recommend not. And then you continue. For example, I recommend not to eat much food in the evening. This is just another example. Or I recommend not eating much food in the afternoon. Good. Now we move to the next one. Which is, so we have dealt with advice, recommendation, and then instruction. Instruction, the function of this form is used when giving direction. So, making order and explaining about the rule, etc. You have plenty of options, you have plenty of functions by using instruction. So instruction, we use the imperative form, which means order. In order, we don't use the subject. I'm referring to the subject. He or she or I do not use them in instruction. So directly we start with the verb. So verb plus, okay, and then you will continue with the object, etc. Object, for example, let's say contribute in our organization. So here contribute is the verb and the rest is an object. In is a preposition. Our is a possessive adjective, and organization is the object. Good. So I think I have done all the forms along with their different functions, and also I dealt with affirmative, negative, and interrogative form. That was all, and I hope you understand all what I have explained. That was all. Thank you very much for your kind listening, and as usual, I will address another topic for the next video.